In my father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare place for you. And if I go and prepare place for you, I will come again, and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also.
Alright guys, we are back with another episode, and I'm not doing my usual podcast where I'm recording with the camera and talking. Today I kind of just want to talk, and the topic I want to talk about today, of course, involves the 1800s, the 19th century, which is my favorite century of all time because it's just such a mysterious century. There's so many inconsistencies, so many cover-ups, so many lost technologies, just an extremely mysterious century, and I believe it truly is the void century. And if we can figure out what happened in the 1800s, I think we'll be able to figure out what happened in the years prior. Continuing my obsession with the 1800s, and I talked about things like advanced structures often when I talk about the 19th century, the 1800s, but I realized I don't really talk enough about the technologies inside this building or the possible technologies. And today I want to talk about antique tech. Specific technology I want to talk about are fireplaces. And that's one of the toxic traits I have, is when I get obsessed over a topic, I want to find out everything there is to know. I will stay up late nights researching as much as I can, looking stuff up, trying to find as much information on a topic that I'm really interested in. In fact, it's currently almost 2 a.m. and I'm over here looking up information on antique fireplaces from the 1800s. Most normal people my age are either sleeping right now or maybe watching a show, and I'm over here looking up mysterious fireplace technology from the 1800s. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about the history of alternative energy fireplaces. As it has already been told numerous times before by many different researchers, various technical objects of the past have often become misused or misunderstood due to a lack of corresponding knowledge. Such objects often became deified or turned into something primitive, which proves once again that there was a certain gap in the human history. I call it the void century, like from the show One Piece, when people lost their knowledge in connection to their past. Everyone knows that fireplaces are used for heating purposes. However, few people know how fireplaces work exactly, particularly when we take a real full-functioning fireplace but not its decorative aesthetic version. A standard fireplace is actually among the most inefficient heating devices you can operate. In fact, it can be so inefficient that in some cases it actually makes your house colder. Now imagine some vintage 19th century house with big rooms somewhere in Holland where winters are harsh. An ordinary fireplace would not be able to warm such a house in such conditions unless it was turned into a tiled stove masonry heater, like in the example below. A 19th century fireplace modified into a tiled stove. Again, proof that there could have been some type of reset, and they're modifying this technology because they don't know how to use it themselves or they don't understand it, so they modify it into something more primitive. Now we get a reasonable question: why were fireplaces put in such houses in the first place? If they could do their job, obviously not for aesthetic reasons. Perhaps the climate in the north used to be softer at the time. However, the fireplaces have chimneys, and any expert will confirm that in a warm climate, a fireplace is much harder to operate due to backdraft. So what's the deal? Let's try to figure it out. The odder a fireplace is, the more it looks like some canopy above a fire started right on the floor. And here are some very fascinating pictures of fireplaces from the 19th century, 17th century apparently, if the narrative's correct. Moreover, some fireplaces are higher than an ordinary person, which is also interesting. Again, more pictures, very fascinating, and often with these vintage fireplaces from the 19th century, 18th century, you often have these two interesting antique objects next to the fireplaces all the time that seemingly have nothing to do with the fireplace itself, but it just seems it's very random, or just or the narrative says it's just for aesthetic purposes. But what if it wasn't just aesthetic purposes, but for free energy specifically? Naturally, old fireplaces could be properly used for wood burning in their original construction, so they were modified for new usage methods, such as this picture right here. Just look at the quality of the fireplace itself and the quality of the white tiles that were put there afterwards in order to reduce the size of the firebox. Again, this is pointing to the fact that these were not just used as regular fireplaces for woods, but had another purpose to it that maybe the people living in there during the 19th century didn't fully understand. So they had to make it smaller with these poor quality white tiles that they installed that makes it look uglier. The fact is obvious, owner of the house got this fireplace ready and then clumsily modified it. Wait a minute, what are these things standing near the fireplace encircled in red? Are they standing there for aesthetic reasons or just accidentally get into the shot? They probably stand for a reason, considering that almost all presented images show similar objects near the fireplace. And I'll show you a bunch more pictures. Again, here are these same two twin orbs next to the fireplace, and you see this in like every vintage fireplace. So clearly there must have been another use for it instead of just aesthetics, and I believe this use could have been free energy. You see, all fireplaces shown above have one common trait: a metal plate behind the firebox, or the whole firebox made of metal. The metal goblet looking objects, these objects may be of various sizes, while the bigger are usually put near the edges of a fireplace. The function of metal plates is quite clear. They reflect infrared rays when fireplaces heat up like an ordinary fireplace does. The goblets, on the other hand, have nothing to do with an ordinary fireplace that heats up from combustion. The Europeans probably couldn't understand the original function of these goblets, but due to their mentality decided to keep them intact. These goblets are nothing else than ether capacitors, which amplify electricity in a conductor along which they are put. It turns out that originally these fireplaces were not designed to burn wood. Their secret probably lies somewhere else. Let's imagine that the fireplace and the roof are connected by metal bondings through the chimney. The whole construction becomes one solid conductor connected with the metal plates in the firebox. Ether capacitors put near the fireplace provoke eddy currents, flocculate currents in the metal frame, which transmit them to the metal plate. This is how it may have looked. So something like this. This is how it may be transmitted. The intensity of electric current in the center of the metal plate was probably so high that it made the plate radiate heat. It is possible that there were some other secrets inside the fireplace. Similar capacitors could be installed in the upper part of the firebox too. Look at this fireplace. There's not even a place for wood unless the hatch behind the radiator is not a modern modification. There's also a lot of similar fireplaces, just like the picture I just showed, such as this one. Again, very bizarre. This one is the true fireplace as it should be, judging by its look. It is probably a showpiece in some museum that hasn't been used for burning wood. But what if this fireplace was still operational by the time of the 19th century when the photo was made? It very well may be. Actually, there's a lot of evidence and reason to consider rethinking history, but who will do that? So again, I found this very interesting, looking into antique tech. I talked about advanced structures and buildings from the 19th centuries, but I realized I don't talk enough about possible advanced technologies found inside of these buildings, such as these very mysterious, bizarre-looking fireplaces that maybe weren't just fireplaces at all, especially when you look at the interesting goblet-like objects next to these fireplaces and the metal plates in the back of these fireplaces. Maybe there was another use for it, such as free energy. If you guys would like to support this channel, I do have a Patreon, and I would like to start vlogging and actually visiting some of these old world structures that were left behind and weren't destroyed, that are still standing today, that you can visit in different parts of California, different parts of America. However, traveling expenses, especially where I live in California, the cost of living has gone up. So it's kind of hard to set aside money and time to actually go and visit these places. But that's my dream this summer, is to at least visit a few of these places and start vlogging. So if you would like to support that and to support my channel, I do have a Patreon, and you can pick your price for the Patreon. You want to pay $1 per month, you can pay $1. You want to pay $5, you can pay $5. But all support is very much appreciated and will be reinvested back into these videos and into traveling and actually visiting these places and actually vlogging and visiting these places, hopefully. But again, thank you so much for your support. Please turn on post notifications, comment, like, share, and we are out.